Welcome to another exciting edition of Soccer Master for the love of football. I'm still the radio paparazzi and I have the sports Wikipedia Longman, and today we're discussing about the FA Cup final. Longman, welcome, brother.
That is it. Welcome to the FA Cup final edition of Soccer Master. I'm still my humble self, Adeshola Animasha. Longman, we are going to Wembley.
Yes, Wembley. And Longman, it's safe to say the noise have been coming from Manchester United. I remember we know the noisy neighbors to be Manchester City.
Yes.
But the noisy neighbors now are Manchester United. Longman, quickly, bit by bit, let's kick off with the Premier League champions and also the finalists for UEFA Champions League, Manchester City. What should we expect from Pep Guardiola and what should we expect from his team?
First and foremost, I feel like the silence in that Manchester City squad is scary. They are not saying anything.
Nothing.
They are not saying anything.
Nothing.
I know by, let me say, later in the day, probably Pep will actually say something. Maybe his captain will actually say, because I know that FA will go and at least interview them and say what is the plan before the game. But I feel like Manchester United is full of the paparazzi. And normally you can say that about a big club. Because talking about the biggest club in Premier League presently now in England, in the British soil presently, you say Manchester United. So talking about the FA Cup and talking about Manchester City, I think they're just going to go to it like the way they go to every other game. I know it is very important for Manchester United in the fact that they said they wanted to stop Man City from winning the treble. And then presently in the worldwide world, presently like this, in fact in the worldwide world, Manchester City and Pep Guardiola is a team to beat. Okay. So I feel like they are going to go to that game like every other game, having Henderson as their goalkeeper, probably Diaz and Laporte, having Anakonji, having the likes of Walker, Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez, Erling Braut Haaland, and probably Jack Grealish. That squad is looking the way I just mentioned it. Looks scary. That's just names. Now the style of how to play that game. Now the tactical part of it. Yeah, I think we will just the cook. Because we know that Guardiola can just try anything tryable. He can shock anybody. I remember in the Champions League final against Chelsea, he just said that he's not going to use any striker, and he did not. So he might just say, okay, he wants to be dimensional about Eric Ten Hag and his ball, because he knows fully well that they've defeated him at Old Trafford this season. So he knows that Eric Ten Hag is actually going to be cooking, and he wants to beat him tactically as well. So I know Pep will actually be cooking something magical. Okay.
Before we move down to Manchester United, which player are you expecting to be exceptional in that team? That can drive the force for Manchester City.
I think like the last time Manchester City lost the final was the Champions League final, and the only way it got easier for that person to defeat them was because they murdered the machine. They quenched the machine.
And what's the machine?
Kevin De Bruyne. Amazing. If you remember the 2021 Champions League final, Kevin De Bruyne was injured by Rudiger. So I feel like tactical, like Sergio Ramos did to Mohamed Salah in 2019. So I feel like it's going to happen again. So Kevin De Bruyne is the machine in the injury room of that squad. Yes, I'm not taking anything away from Ike Gundogan. I'm not taking anything away from that guy that scores all goals, Erling Braut Haaland. And as well, Riyad Mahrez is
Bernardo Silva also.
Bernardo Silva. So all these guys are dangerous players. Like Varane said in his interview, he said, these guys can come from set piece, they can score from possession, and they can score from transition. Like, okay, yes, your team is the one playing. Once they collect the ball, they can score you. Yes, they can score from crossing over, that's a set piece, and they can score from being possessive. So all the three styles of play, this Manchester City squad